was a photo from the first reunion, which is a bit of a hard case, isn't it?
That's fantastic.
All of us old guys lined up. and things kept coming out. Oh, that was to do with the reunion again, and it was a write-up. I don't know what that was. It was a big spread that came out somewhere. You know, so it just kept going on and on. So,
because were you surprised by that?
yes, I was, because you know we were just a group which played in Christchurch and never thought anything more about it. We hadn't realised that we were ended up being the first R&B band in New Zealand. People now use the term punk, but that wasn't in there. So R&B was what we were trying to do, and some of their material was probably a bit wild for that, but it was based on that. You know, we listened to all those sorts of characters from overseas, and who would it be? Our drummer Trevor, he was always importing LPs from overseas, so we were able to get a lot of interesting material off from those LPs.
Did you ever bring them in yourself? Were you...
No.
So that was Trevor's role in the band to
well, not really
find the material.
It's just that somehow or other he seemed to be able to find these interesting LPs by them, Pretty Things, groups that we hadn't really heard of until somehow they were brought to our attention, and so we were able to get quite a few tunes from some of those early big named groups overseas, which was great for us. We enjoyed it.
So you know, people like John Dalton, they prefer, and a lot of people much prefer your version, say Witch Doctor, to say John Mayall's.
I do too.
Yeah.
Which is a bit poor. Yes, ours seems to be a heavier version, and things like Mystic Eyes and so on. I mean, I still enjoy occasionally listening to Mystic Eyes, which is really heavy the way we did it. Are you familiar with it?
Yeah.
The way it just went boom, you know, it was such a big crash at the start. Boom, 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 boom.
So there's something like, were you born in Christchurch?
No, I'm an Invercargill
Are you?
person, yes. I did my schooling in Invercargill, and then went to art school in Christchurch, where I met up with, well, after art school I met up with Mike Rudd, because he also was an art student, but he decided music was more exciting and dropped out for that reason. But when I met him, I was actually teaching art at Lincoln High School, just out of Christchurch. Well, I didn't know anything about art schools. I was interested in art. I wasn't too clued up on anything else, and so I was fortunate to get into art school. And that was the art school that was sort of nearest. You know. I think there was only one other I could have gone to, that was in Auckland, but I didn't want to go all that way, because in the holidays I'd pop back down to Invercargill again, things like that. And I went to art school with Barry Walsh on the drums here. Came out of school and starting apprenticeships. He actually made the guitars, and I contributed in small ways. His name is Brian Hawliston, who now lives in Central Otago, Alexandra, and he made the guitars. And recently, I think the one he made for himself, I'm not too sure what happened to it. Recently I passed my guitar over to him because it was still in reasonable order. I wouldn't want to play it now, and it's more like a wall ornament, I'm thinking. But it was nice for him to get it back, because he was the one who'd carved it all out and made all the everything, you know.
Yeah.
And all I did was fret it. You know, we were able to get nice silver fret wire, so we fretted it, and we got diamond pickups from somewhere and just put diamond pickups on them, machine heads and the whole works, you know. And we even bought tremolo arms and fitted tremolo arms. You know, it was as close as we could get, and we then got them spray painted by a car painter or somebody to look just like a Fender, and they end up looking very much like a Fender.
And how did it sound?
Pretty good, yeah. Because they had good pickups.
Because you played Fenders after that.
Yes, when we got together, I decided that I needed a proper guitar, you know. And also the neck was starting to warp a fraction, and we didn't know anything about how you de-warp necks when you had rod suit or anything, and so what I did was lift the strings quite high and used it for bottleneck playing. I used a piece of metal on my finger and slid up and down when we were playing various tunes to get that sort of bottleneck quality for the R&B.
Because where did you see that people did that? Like, where did you guys learn that? Because it's not like there were bottleneck players out there.
No.
Like, you could probably say that you would be, if not the first, one of the... So where did we...
It's almost like a Hawaiian guitar, but you actually wearing it around your neck and playing it differently, I suppose. Because certainly the Hawaiian guitars use that principle, and they were around. People would sit down with a flat guitar arrangement and run a piece of metal up and down it while they were plucking the strings.
But they're like, almost like they've got legs, and they're like a table, aren't they? But to stand up, had you seen photos of people doing it, or?
I must have, yes. And we'd heard the sliding sound on some of the records that we had, so...
Do you remember what records would that be like? Was that like blues?
Probably traditional blues, yes. Not rhythm and blues, but traditional blues. We bought in traditional blues albums from the old American blues guys and so on.
Can you remember how it goes from being Shadows
to R&B?
To R&B. It's not overnight, but there must be...
No, it certainly happened just around about the time that we went to the King Bee. Now this then became the Stage Door. And somehow or other, because Trevor, and I think Mike as well, had quite a few LPs of music which we rather enjoyed, we decided to play some of those numbers, and that became our thing at the Stage Door, well, King Bee then. And so we just moved away completely from anything that had to do with popular music. And I mean, we were a bit smart in saying things like, who are the Beatles? And so we were looking, I suppose the most contemporary type of music would be things like early Rolling Stones, Satisfaction, things like that, which we also included at that stage.
And the Pretty Things.
Well, no, by contemporary I mean sort of a young group. Pretty Things were an older group. I don't know whether they've been around a long time, but they probably would have been in their 30s, possibly 40s. An older, quite a heavy bluesy group, heavy R&B type group. Yeah. Along with them was also quite heavy.
But so one day you guys turn up and you say, right, we're not going to play Shadows now. We're playing Rolling. Pretty much you're playing early the Stones' first album then, isn't it?
Yes. And so that would pick that up along with other sort of R&B type material. But I still don't see where some people use the term punk to describe what we were playing in those days. It may be the attitude of the band, where I tend to stand quietly in the background, where the guys up front would dance and jump around and act quite outrageous. But the dancers and people watching enjoyed it.
At all.
You're just enjoying yourself doing what it is that you are able to do, and we enjoyed ourselves. It was really quite a special time when I look back on it.
Yeah, well, that's what's becoming, quite obvious when you talk to people, and I guess it's a special time because things are being written for or done for the first time, and that's probably the difference. How we were talking about punk before. Punk's like the second time, so certain people know to make money out of it because they've watched, they've seen it happen before. There's other things it's more commercial than say what you guys were doing, because every day someone's pushed the envelope, whereas probably with punk it's going back, and it's almost like a bit of a retread, and that it's a return to something. Whereas what you guys were doing was you were pushing it was the first time the envelope was, you were blowing it up.
We were we'd heard about mods and rockers, and so we decided we were mods. Got all these fancy suits made by Borry, who was a friend of somebody.
So did you get into that? You got into the clothes, into the fashion?
Yes. And then I wore them to school, of course, as a school teacher. The kids called me Mr. Mod. And by that time my hair was getting a bit longer. And
so how did that go at school? What did they think?
Oh, I think the kids enjoyed it. And I think the staff just ignored it. No, he's the art teacher.
Right, so yeah, you're lucky if you're the economics
I could
teacher.
wear suits that had great big checks and things.
It's true though, isn't it? If you were teaching something else, it probably would have been more of an issue.
Yeah.
No, because and let's talk a little bit about that. Growing here, there's another thing, it was, it's kind of, okay, people have had long hair in history, but within, say, the last 100 years, men's hair was always short, and then suddenly...
Yeah. I'll get a photo of myself.
Yeah, let's have a look.
Just after that period.
Oh, wow. So what year's that then?
That was 10 years later or so. Probably I was just about taking over the job as the head of the art school.
Right.
And they accepted me like that. So that was
that's
quite brave of them, wasn't it?
No, but that's the same thing though, isn't it? That's amazing. So sorry, so you're on TV.
As the pretty things, arriving at the Christchurch airport.
So the whole band decides, because that's unusual too, isn't it? To go out to the airport to meet a band is...
Well, they were sort of our heroes at the time. Battle of the Bands. What date do we put?
So it's 64.
Oh.
And I know it's at Addington.
Well, we'll just see if...
Do you remember it?
Oh yes, quite well. Yeah, it was... I think it was a real blast for us. Peter Hansen had just joined us as a bass player, and he was quite extrovert on stage, a very good bass player. That was Eddie's older brother. And yes, it was a lot of fun. Some of our fans, we had a fan club, and ended up, the person who was actually running it ended up living in Auckland, so the fan club was based in Auckland, which is really weird. Here we are. Question 2. In 1964, Chants won the Battle of the Bands contest. Where in... so that might be you asking a question.
Is there an answer?
Let's have a look. The complete Chants R&B story. It looks like they're talking to me. Oh, bloody hell. Probably one of your colleagues just put something in.
And do you remember the other bands who you're up against?
No, I'm afraid not.
Or who the judges were?
No idea. I've got a feeling it may have been judged by all the people present, putting out a slip of paper saying the band they liked the best. And I think some of their fans were rushing around encouraging everybody to vote for them, vote for them.
So out of that though, so you guys win that, which gives you, that'd be a lot of kudos, wouldn't it? To be the Battle of the Bands winner?
Not sure. I mean, it gave us an opportunity to do a little recording of the local radio station, but that recording was so disastrous that we didn't want it, and didn't like it, and,
Yeah, what-
and purposely trying to lose it. You know?
Yeah, what went wrong though? Why? Why was it?
It was just so tinny sounding. So I'm not too sure what happened there.
So you guys go and you do 2 songs.
Mhm.
It's the local studio, so that would be what, 2-track? What do they do? What does a radio station have in '64 anyway to record?
I'm not too sure. We probably just had one microphone, 2 at the most, I suppose, because they would have microphones for people to speak into.
So it'd be like a 1-track then. It's just
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So it's probably amazing you got anything on it.
Turned out very scratchy, and certainly my guitar sounded like it was made of tin. And I guess we weren't too happy, and so nothing came of it. We wanted it to disappear.
Because what would you have listened to it on anyway? Because there's no cassettes in those days. You don't. Well, did they make an acetate, or do you remember what you?
I think yes, they made an acetate. That's what it was. It was like a vinyl record, only it wasn't. It was sort of cut into. Yeah, and it certainly wasn't released or anything. Well, I found this thing, but it doesn't help us. It's just,
Doesn't say, does
it's
it?
just an article on
I don't think anyone can remember for some reason.
Yeah. So, got rid of it. No.
Because you actually had an interest in recording though, didn't you? Because you
Later on, I bought what I thought was quite a fancy tape.
no 2 mic inputs is what we're saying.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. But even having that, well, it's only.
Well, I'm sure. I think I had 2 mics, and I think I put 1 mic in front of our loudspeakers, and that picked up Mike singing, and possibly a mic on stage somewhere. Perhaps I only had 1 mic, which was in front of the loudspeakers, you know, the vocal speakers, which also would be picking up a bit of sound from the stage. And so just recorded. That was just as I was leaving the group, and so recorded the group for an evening while I'm playing. And then sort of put the disc away. Well, it wasn't a disc, it was just a big tape. I've still got it. Just put the big tape away and forgot about it.
You've got it here.
Well, wait a minute. I sent it off to John Baker. When John got all excited about the Chants, I said, look, I've got some stuff I recorded. I'll give it to you, you know. You've got, do what you like with it. He did. Help. He put it onto a CD.
Well, that was then released in '95, pretty much as is, and
Yeah.
goes down in history as one of the best live albums from that era.
It's amazing.
So
No, I actually just gave the whole thing, I think, to John and said, look, here's a great big old-fashioned tape. I don't know whether you can even find a machine to play it on now.
when I interviewed John, I interviewed him at the place that he did the transfer on. He said, "Oh, this is the machine I transferred it on." So they have all these tricks with old tapes. You've got to leave them in cupboards and in a hot water cupboard, and you can't just use it. You've got to warm it up a little bit. And
oh my goodness! Yes, it would be getting a bit brittle.
well, they get brittle.
Yeah. Hey, we've still got some coffee to go.
Yeah.
And some after morning.
Yeah, help bring that through. But that's incredibly unusual though, to have someone who has an interest in recording like that, because that's something that okay, now it's people record everything, but because you also produced the band. Like after you left.
Well, I'm not even too sure how that happened. Because,
yeah, how did that happen?
It was Paul Martz who organised the whole thing, and when we went up, I was listening to the sound in the studio and saying, that sounds all right. Yeah, let's leave it at that. And ended up with my name on the
But
CD.
Where are they? But they're recording in Wellington now, aren't they?
Yeah. That's the EMI studio in Wellington.
So you're not a member of the band. You've left the band by then.
Yeah, I just left the band.
But they take you. how did you? So you go up to Wellington with the band though? You must do.
I'm just wondering if I was still playing with them. For those early
But I think Matt's on those though.
He is. I don't know, I'd just been with the band so long that when the band went to Wellington, I went too. We ended up playing
Did you play? Because they played in Wellington with the road. I think you played in the Hutt Valley.
Oh, we played at about half a dozen places.
Yeah.
In fact, I've got a copy of the page from the newspaper, Wellington newspaper, in my desk there, with about 6 little adverts in it for all the places we played at over the weekend. But I can't remember whether I played or not. I can't remember playing, so I may not have. I may have just been wandering along.
Because I think that's where the legend of Mike nailing his guitar to the floor or something. He was actually nailing his guitar strap, but there's great story. It almost has some sort of religious connotations. It's which has gone into sort of folklore, I guess now, or music folklore.
Well, we've probably seen the Who smash guitars or do things, and so one or two people were kind enough to bring along old guitars for Mike to smash on stage. He didn't smash his own good guitar.
No.
His Mason. I think that's what he had at the time.
Because when Matt joined, so, and we'll go through in a little bit in detail about you leaving, but when Matt joins, you swap guitars.
That's right, yeah.
Why?
Because he had a big jazz guitar, a Gibson, about that thick, hollow body, and I don't remember it feeding back, but that type of guitar would feed back as soon as you stood in front of an amplifier with any volume. And we must have decided that we would be happy to have my Fender, and so I gave him the Fender and he gave me his ginormous guitar. There was a few dollars owing on it, Matt said, so I went along to the shop to pay off what was owing on it, and it was $500 that was owing on it, and at that time that was, something like $2,000 today or something. There was no way I could pay that, so I gave the guitar back to the shop. And that was it.
So you give Matt your Jaguar,
yeah,
and he gives you basically a guitar with. What's the guitar worth though? It wouldn't be worth. A guitar's that expensive in those days?
The big Gibson was an exclusive guitar, yeah, a very special jazz guitar. And so I had no guitar for a while. And then I bought myself a Les Paul Gibson, black, what was it called, 21st anniversary model or something.
So that's like a wooden SG kind of.
It was solid, Les Paul. Lovely guitar, which I used when I moved to Palmerston North and played in a group up there called Sound Mirror, and with a chap called Nihat Oriol on drums, and he was really the person that held the group together. He was a fantastic drummer.
So you kept on playing?
Yeah. And so when I went up there I bought this quite expensive guitar, which I had for quite a few years, and when I moved back down here I still had it, but later on I decided that I just never had time to play in groups, and so I sold it. And I think I got about $1,500 for it. I think I paid $1,100. And I believe today it's worth about $25,000, so I should have held on to the bloody thing. But that's the sort of thing that happens. And now,
I think pretty much every musician I've interviewed,
story, they had a
sadly,
old Fender. Yeah.
In fact, I think I've met my first musician the other day. It's Paul Woolwright, who plays bass in Ticket, who bought his guitar in '73. It was a replacement for one he bought in '71, but bought it in '73, and he's still playing it. And he's quite unique actually in that. But yeah, everyone else. Mike's the same. Mike Rudd.
Oh yes. Well, when I slowly got into jazz after I retired, I ended up buying a Ibanez called GB10, which is rather a nice guitar, which, who was it? One of the jazz guitarists sort of designed it over many years with Ibanez, and they eventually put it into production. Oh, George Benson.
Right.
That's why it's called GB. And I've really enjoyed playing it. It's been a lovely guitar. It has a soft.
Is that semi-acoustic then? Is it, or a hollow body?
Oh, I'll show it.
It's a big thing though, isn't it? Yeah. Right.
You two can have one for about $5,000. You're probably
actually, I might get you to come out into the light.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh wow.
But no, it's actually a beautiful guitar. And George Benson wanted a guitar that he'd carry around to gigs with him without it moving out of tune too much, so it's reasonably solid. And at the same time, he didn't want it to feed back when you're standing in front of amplifiers and things, so they experimented with that, and they've lifted the these two, what do you call them, and they're not touching that at all.
Oh, are they? So they're actually almost floating.
Yeah, they are floating. So that's attached to that.
Yeah.
And this is attached to that.
Oh, how
so
funny.
No reverberation.
Yeah.
At all. So the pickups purposely put on in such a way that you don't get feedback or minimal feedback with volume.
Because that's something that I guess most of the guitars you guys had in the early days at least would have been hollow body, or a percentage of you were playing hollow body guitars.
No, only mic.
Only mic.
Oh, probably the very early days, but I had my own solid body electric, so there was no worry.
But for other people, was feedback a problem? Did you?
If you had any volume, if you went too loud and you didn't stand right in front of your amplifier, speakers. Yeah.
And what about hearing each other on stage?
Oh, you just got the shatter from behind you. You would go home and your ears would ring until 3 o'clock in the morning if you're still awake. And by the next morning they would have calmed down. Not good for our hearing for old age. Fortunately I can still hear, but I don't deserve to. Having stood in front of very noisy speakers.
Do you remember rehearsing there? Or did you do it all separately and just turn up and play it?
Pretty well, yes. Pretty well. I think the other guys did get together quite a bit, but I wasn't in a position because I'd be working during the day to do that, and so I would have to practice at home. And the first time we would play the tunes through, I would probably be a bit cautious. And after a couple of nights, it would go smoothly. There was a little bit of the rocker thing with people who sort of wore heavy boots and black tight jeans and t-shirts and things like that, but not really where we were, so we didn't really see that. I believe occasionally groups of them would turn up outside and give our clientele some cheek, And I think I told one of your colleagues that in the end the stage door hired some bouncers who were from the local judo club to stand at the door and eject problems. I never heard of any fights. There may have been, but not that we were aware of. We'd be so noisy inside. I can't remember anybody ever being drunk. Can't remember ever seeing anybody smoking dope or pot or whatever. In fact, I don't think we even knew what dope or pot was. No, I certainly didn't. And as far as I know, the other boys didn't. That came in a bit later,
That's ticket. That's the
next 10 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I can't remember whether we were able to drink a bottle of beer or anything else. I just can't remember that. It was a coffee bar.
Yeah, you weren't allowed.
No.
It was all pretty much Coke and hamburgers.
Can't remember seeing anybody drunk.
No.
but everybody jived and jiggled almost as if they were. Nothing really went nice and crazy. So, quite a different scene from today. We just completely stopped. When I was playing lead guitar, a lot of the music was me leading, because, you know, like Shadow stuff was all guitar.
Well, because the Shadows to me is one long guitar solo almost.
That's right, well, that's what I mean. I was sort of, we had a singer who would be singing songs, but we would do Shadow's numbers and other people's numbers, which were just guitar solo type numbers. And so I got to know a lot of those, that sort of stuff.
But then, so you go from very, and they're not that fast either, quite
that's right.
fluid guitar solos, and then you look at the Chants material.
Which has become much faster.
Your guitar solos are 100 times faster, a lot shorter.
That's largely the new guitarist, because I was a slower type of guitarist. I never had the dexterity
but even
that Matt had. You know, I would say that he was a much better guitarist than me for that type of music, and he was able to just fly all over the place where I didn't have that ability, and I would tend to play a lot slower. So I think he was good for the band. And most of the CDs that came out it was him that was playing the lead. So all that fantastic stuff really wasn't me.
well, I'm thinking of Matt's solo on Neighbour Neighbour, where he just lets rip. It's crazy.
Yes,
it's ridiculously
lovely
fast.
Guitarist.
Yeah, quite amazing.
It was nice to see him again. I hadn't seen him for 40 years or so.
Yeah, he's a lovely man too.
I don't think any of us can remember how we initially got together. Michael and Compton were friends. They went through high school together, and they must have been playing a bit of music together as friends rather than professional. And look, I just don't know how we got together. No, can't remember at all, because this was a year or so before we got together as the Chants. Well, the Chants R&B. We call ourselves the Chants. And the term chants is based on Gregorian chants, not on anything else. You know, we sort of thought of the chants as being that sort of thing initially, as opposed to anything else. And then the R&B got added to it, so Gregorian R&B. Well, that sounds a pretty groovy outfit. It was quite amazing, looking back on it. We were just very lucky, I guess, that the owners of the Kingby stage door were happy with what we were doing, because we brought in, apparently, the crowds. And doing all that, playing together, I suppose you just slowly built up a good selection of tunes and got better at them. And fortunately, we didn't get booted out, you know, because we could have. There was no noise control. I mean, we were so low down in the basement of this building that the sound wasn't escaping out very much onto the street, so we weren't disturbing anybody. And there was all shops and stuff around, so they would be closing at 5:30 or whatever. Well, when the band decided to go to Australia, that's when I decided to pull out, because I felt probably being a teacher was a safer bet, you know, financially and so on. And but they went, got a new lead guitarist, and had a pretty heavy time of it, you know, changing cities and things. No, because we were so cloistered in our little alcove that we didn't even get out to hear Ray Columbus and the Invaders, you know, and they were just sort of down the street, because we would be playing the same nights as them. It would be a different clientele. So no, we didn't really get a chance to listen to other groups, which was probably a bit sad, but no, we were playing.
But that's probably in a funny kind of way how you gained that you know, your uniqueness as well as
because we weren't influenced.
Your isolation.
Oh, they're doing something nice. Those are nice tunes they're doing, and let's try them. We didn't really know what they were doing because we didn't hear or see. Also, a lot of that material that we were covering was not available in the shops because Trevor or Michael had imported the records, and so they were new sounds to people. would be original to people, something new.
And they're also on the far edges of
Yeah, what was acceptable by the general. But actually ended up being quite a fun number. Was that the one I played? What was it?
We've got your slide guitar on it for one.
And I also played an Indian flute, because my sister had just brought back this rather strange, she'd been overseas, she brought this rather strange gourd with a stick out of it and gave it to me, and I was able to play for about 5 notes on it. So I played those 5 notes in that tune. And it just sort of fitted in, so that was rather fun, yeah. Gave an odd twist to it. But it worked over Trevor just quietly sort of mouthing away in the background, you know. It wouldn't have worked if everybody kept playing, you know, because...
Do you remember recording that?
I think so. So we must have done that at EMI, and so I did do stuff there. But so I may have been playing Bottleneck and that when Matt was with us at EMI. That's what I was doing. Yeah.
So you're, because you've got the Bottleneck on there as well, which just gives
that'd be my old electric guitar, which I had rigged up for Bottleneck. Mind you, there was no such thing as, well, is it 12 bars or 24 bars or a 32 bar tune, and do we have a bridge? You know? Huh? What's that?
Well, there's no one to teach you that though, then, is there?
No.
So how did you learn that?
Just experiment.
So that's going back to the lab. You guys just
Just an experiment by trying different things when we're actually playing in front of the crowd.
What happened to the flute? Did you ever keep that?
I did for a long time, but I think it got damaged in one of my shifts because it may have been a tourist type flute that you could buy in India and take away a little bit of imitation greenstone type of thing. I'm guessing it might have been something in that category. But it was actually a hollowed out gourd with a hollow stick that came out of it with holes. And it was quite well made, obviously, to get a reasonable sound. But I think it got damaged in one of my shifts, and that was the end of it.
Is your sister aware that her flute ended up on a record?
Oh, I'm sure I told her, but she probably never heard it. She was into classical music.
Oh, the pretty things. So you go to the airport. Did you see yourselves on TV that night then?
I can't remember, but somebody did, and there was some write-up about the mix-up. But they got off the plane and walked towards the terminal, and we wandered out to hi there, and we sort of came wandering back, and I don't think we were allowed to go right out to meet them properly, so we turned around and sort of walked back, and the cameras were there and saw us all and took our photos. And I don't know whether they got it sorted out or not in the end, but it was just rather fun for us, you know. And the pretty thing said, "Oh, you're a local band, are you? Oh, why don't you join us?" And we were too shy, you know, to play on stage with them. And we knew our equipment would never compete with whatever they had, and so we said, "No, we'll come along and listen to it, but thank you." But they did ask us to join them. They didn't know who we were or anything other than that we were a local band which played their sort of music.
Do you regret not doing that now?
Probably a little, yeah. But we were just, play on stage with them.
What did you think of them live?
Oh, a lot of fun. Yeah, quite wild, outrageous. They were much wilder than the Stones when they came on stage. Now the Stones acted up a bit, but these were older guys and a bit more casual. I mean, if there was pot around, they were probably smoking it on stage. I don't know if they were, but they look like, looking back now, they look like the sort of group that would be heavy in that respect as well.
And musically? Because you guys were playing all their songs. So how was that to see?
Oh, it was good, yeah. I can't remember it very well though.
Because what's gone into music folklore now is that they come through and sort of change New Zealand bands. Probably not as much you guys, because you've assimilated a lot of their music anyway, but there's a lot of bands throughout New Zealand that mushroom after them coming through, playing what you guys have been playing. Really, they don't have the stage door, so it's probably not as edgy.
Focused. Yes, we were lucky. We were able to just play what we wanted, do what we wanted, act, talk, laugh, jig, jive, whatever.
Because do you think that you guys because it's one thing to hear them on the record, do you think that after that that it affected you guys, that it loosened you even more after seeing them playing live?
I can't remember that. I'm guessing it probably didn't make much difference because we'd seen the Who on telly, or if there was telly then, but no. We were trying to do what they were doing on stage, I think, and so we were just putting on a show. And I don't know if the Pretty Things really put on much of a show, but they moved around quite a bit, and they looked quite heavy, personally.
Do you remember the drummer at all?
Oh yes, quite well. To come to think of it, he was a bit of a showman, a bit of a Trevor.
And you also had that guy Noddy though. You have a member of the audience that sometimes if he's there and Trevor's disappeared, he'll sit in.
That was quite handy, wasn't it? He'd be watching Trevor. I think he quite admired what Trevor was doing, but he enjoyed playing a little bit. I don't think he was in a group or anything, but he may have been. I didn't think.
No, he wasn't.
And he'd just sit in and.
So how was that though? You're playing and then you look over and Trevor's
wandering off
and some other guy's playing and then a member of the audience gets up and starts playing drums.
It was just part of the fun, I think. There was no worry. I certainly never felt anxious or concerned about that happening. I think there was a very good camaraderie at that time at any rate, during those 2 years. And we probably put up with a hell of a lot from each other. I was the taciturn, quiet, silent person in the background. But I was quite happy to be there. I didn't feel like jigging around. Probably couldn't. I was too up myself. The arrogant bastard in the background, But,
Did you feel like that though?
I thought I was quite good. Yeah. Probably wasn't until I'd heard people like Matt play that I realised that I was actually ordinary. But I enjoyed it. I pulled out probably 3 months or so before the band left for Australia, but that was the time that they were making the plans of where to go and how to do it and what will we take over. Will we take all our gear or buy new gear? And I think they ended up taking all their gear and found out that our gear really wasn't up to it when they got there, so they ended up having to get new gear. And that's when Matt came along, and he was a lovely guitarist, and he sat in and, oh yes, he's Australian too, so.
And was that a hard decision?
No, I think I had done my thing with the band, and I wasn't worried at all about pulling out. If we had have stayed there, I would have stayed at the stage door. But I didn't want to move to Australia. So I had a sneaking suspicion that it would be very difficult to break in. And so I decided to stay a school teacher for an indefinite period. Which I did for another so many years.